Hello, everyone. Welcome to a CybExer webinar on benefits of a cyber range. Today, we will be talking about cyber ranges and trying to elaborate on various benefits of a cyber range. My name is Aare Reintam. I'm Vice President of Direct Sales here at CybExer Technologies. With me on this webinar today is Mr. Aare Reintam, our Chief Operating Officer, also a former ambassador of NATO DCOE, if you are familiar with that term. Hello, Aare, how are you?
Hi, Atro. I'm good, and you?
Very well. It's a beautiful day here in Helsinki.
We cannot complain our weather also here in Tallinn. So firstly, I would like to thank you, Atro, for setting up and hosting this webinar together with you. So it's pure pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right, so let's get started. Firstly, I'll be introducing you to CybExer Technologies in a couple of words. So our mission in this world is to close the skills gap in cybersecurity. We do that by providing these cyber ranges, which we will be talking about in a few minutes. CybExer has conducted cyber range exercises and has provided cyber ranges in over 49 countries. We have over 100,000 virtual machines. Virtual machines in this context means items in a content library that can be deployed in a cyber range. And very proud to say that nearly 150,000 hours of live cyber warfare training has been conducted in our cyber ranges, in our platforms, since we've been existing for nearly 7 years now. Mm-hmm. Our roots go very much into the military and the public sector, but now increasingly in the past few years, we've been starting to work with private enterprises as well. Critical infrastructure companies like banks, financial services providers, or telcos, for example, are seeing the benefits of a cyber range. And if you are wondering whether your company, your industry would be fit for cyber range training, happy to explore this further. Anything to add here, Aare?
Oh, this is what it is. Magnificent numbers for a company that is only 7 years old, and we have a huge, let's say, reach from different companies, private sector companies, utilities, and of course up to military, government customers all over the world. I
agree. Good. Let's keep going. So briefly, if you're not familiar with the cyber range, what is a cyber range? So cyber range is a simulated environment used to test and training individuals and organizations in cybersecurity skills and tactics. A cyber range usually includes virtualized networks, servers, and devices, as well as simulated cyber attacks and scenarios. We'll go into much more details of this in the coming slides, but there on the right-hand side, I wanted to share you with this actual picture from an exercise from a cyber range deployed for European Defense Agency. So they can be beautiful as well. All right, over to Aare, maybe if you could talk about the cyber range use cases. What are they used for?
Very good. Thank you, Atro. So just a comment to the previous slide as well was that everybody has a different understanding about the cyber range and what it is. For some of the customers or clients who we are talking about, a cyber range is just a laptop that can run some of the virtual machines inside of it, and some of them have a full-blown server data centers full of servers and building up huge simulations in the environment. And now we try to look what the cyber range is through the use cases, what we are able to provide on the cyber range. And the first one is that what we can conduct is the cyber warfare and incident response activities on the cyber range. Again, from that angle, the cyber ranges can be used to simulate, real world cyber attacks. We can do the offensive side of active defense. Our motto is if you want to be able to defend your systems, you also need to understand how they are attacked. The other point of view is that from the defensive side, what kind of systems to build up, what kind of security tools to be used against these kind of attacks. And what we want to do is that we want to simulate the realistic environments as you would see on your daily environments. And what that helps is that not only the vulnerabilities of the systems and networks, but also different procedures and activities from this angle. And now we are moving to the next pillar called cybersecurity.
Let me ask you a question here. So let's say you do a cyber range exercise in the cyber range. So would they be training with their own devices? How does it work in practice? So how do you get a touch of how they would react in a cyber attack?
Yes, that's a good question. So of course we eager people to use their own systems and tools on the cyber range environment. So all the administrators and people who use a computer on a daily basis, you have your own, let's say, tools in the computer and so forth. You can use this in the cyber range activities as well. But of course, in the cyber range, what we do is that we simulate all the virtual machines and systems in a full administrative rights that you can log into all the systems in a way that you're used to do on a daily basis. So there is no difference. It's just a virtualized and controlled environment that you can reach with your own tools that you have been using on a daily basis.
So you can have your Spotify running in the background as in this example, the guy there.
Yeah, there is no limitations about that. So you can listen to your Spotify while you're doing the same things. So the main idea is not to take the people away from the same situation where they are on a daily basis. You can use your own tools, you can be in the same environment, it looks the same, it feels the same, but everything what you do there don't have impact on the operational environment. So that's the beauty of it.
Sounds good.
So when we move to next pillar, and that's what the cyber range also provides, is that what we have seen is that it is constant hassle to train your people and make sure that you're compliant with all different regulations out there from the people perspective. And how you can do that is that you can train your employees how to apply best practices, what are the incident response procedures, what is the vulnerability and patching, let's say, procedures, and how to gain the security awareness. So these are the things how we are providing them, and we are providing them through different use cases. For example, individual trainings. You can, if you want to be a good system administrator in Windows operating systems, then there are dedicated baseline models built up in the cyber range where you can test, different layers. You can see your skills, abilities, and knowledges, how you are able to, progress in these kind of things. You're able to validate your people, how good they are at dedicated point of the time by conducting hands-on activities against these kind of things. You can do team-based things. One thing is that everybody is relying on the individuals that are working in our companies. But the other thing is that the individual has to be good. So this is let's say, the baseline, what we are achieving. And if the individuals are good, then how we work as a team. So we are, playing out these kind of individual and also team-based events on the cyber range to actually make sure that everybody is up to the level that they should be, or at least we are able to understand when they are not, and what kind of, let's say, trainings they still might need to have to reach to this level that one organizations feel secure enough.
And I want to point out to the listeners, we have a slide describing in more detail of the training paths and the approaches, but we'll show that towards the end of it. But this is a good introduction to that.
And then the final, let's say, pillar is that what we have now seen more and more, and now mainly coming from the private sector entities, is the research and system run the test, let's say, validation. And what we have seen is that our cyber range provides you an excellent opportunity to test out new security tools. You set up an environment, your office network, and you want to try out new security tools, your CMs, your AVs, IDSs, IPSs, then what we are able to do is that we are actually able to provide a dedicated environment where you can test out the ways and configuration of these kind of security tools. And not only, we are also, helping out companies who are going through digital transformation. So how, new softwares have interoperability issues with your legacy systems, how they will incorporate with each other, what are the main obstacles, what are the data feeds that you need to fill in, and so forth. So the opportunities on the cyber range, what you are able to play out is just cost saving and time saving for a lot of companies. And also the main benefit out of it is that you will gain an absolute understanding how different tools are working in environment and how they can actually bring you the value add.
So another way of putting it, this could be like a digital twin, sort of an individual system or larger scale system that you can play around with safely.
Exactly. So digital twin is a good wording here. We have had customers who have came to us and said that we have to have a full digital clone of our systems. And then we always try to understand that what is the need for the digital twin. Maybe there is only a dedicated segment what they need to have a full digital twin of and try out new tools and procedures on top of that, but not have all the bits and pieces. So everything is possible. We can do these kind of things. And we are also helping out the customer here to actually find the proper focus and scope for these kind of activities and play it through, with no hassle.
Thank you, Aare. And now that we got you warmed up, so what our cyber range is used for was the topic of this slide, and let's continue on talking about the benefits of cyber range. I'll briefly introduce these few bullet points that we have there, and then I'm hoping, Aare, that you can jump in with some real-world stories on how our customers have used cyber ranges. So firstly, improved incident response. So cyber ranges do allow organizations to simulate real-world cyber attacks, and as you just learned, and practice their incident response procedures, allowing them to identify and address vulnerabilities in their systems. So Aare, maybe if you could jump in here and would you have an example of what does this fancy word mean in practice?
Yes. So how we practice the incident response activities is through our live fire exercises. And this is the best, let's say, way how to practice it. How we are doing it is that we have a simulated environment that is realistic as a regular agency or operation it can be. There are dedicated attacks launched against this environment. So this is an enterprise under attack scenario where all public internet-facing services, your users, all your applications in the environment can be a jumping host to your internal networks. And what we are training is that how quickly you are able to detect the attacks against or anomalies against your infrastructure. And how we are doing it is that we are actually playing out a real attack campaign, how it is done in the real world, recon, then you send a massive amount of traffic towards that enterprise. You try to hook up the end users, and what we are training them is that how quickly you're able to see the attack. You have to then trigger your incident response activities, detect it, mitigate it, report it. So all these kind of change. And if you do this in a controlled environment and you train this with your teams, you're able to take this knowledge back to your real workplace and act accordingly and not make the mistakes the first time in the operational environment when you have actually trained them out.
Yeah, so the first time you're dealing with critical or serious incident is not the real incident, but a practice scenario, right?
We have had opportunities and examples where we have reduced the incident response detection and activities more than 10 times. For example, if it
Wow.
was 1 hour in the beginning of the first exercise, and when we launched the second one after a dedicated while, when there has been, let's say, time and also taken into the considerations what we have provided, it has reduced to the 10 minutes. Usually the cybersecurity incidents are found out 6 months or something, like maybe even later. So we try to train them to be better in that.
That's impressive, and I think our listeners can think what that would mean in their organization and what their response times are and what they could be or should be. Secondly, enhanced security awareness. So cyber ranges can be used to train employees on cybersecurity best practices, helping to reduce the risk of human error and improve overall security awareness. I think, if I may add here, so technology has evolved a lot, but I'm hearing a lot that the people or the human error is the weakest link currently in any cybersecurity environment. So anything you want to add here on the second topic?
Yes, so this is also one thing what we have seen is that not all, let's say, teams or enterprises have the same understanding and capabilities. We have the people that we have the technology that we have, and we have to use maximum out of them. But what we are teaching and going through in this cyber range journey is that we try to teach step by step how the attacks are conducted, how you can gain the better situational awareness about, what tools and methods the attackers are using, how they're pivoting between the machines, how they reach the crown jewels in the enterprise. And if we are, playing these kind of scenarios through in a simulated and controlled environment, it helps the different defenders to get the same level about the situational awareness, what tools to use, how to detect anomalies, how to act, against them. When you know how the attackers are moving and what they are using, it just helps to train the regular IT administrators to be more aware and do better configurations in their systems.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thirdly, I have here reduced risk of data breaches. By simulating cyber attacks, organizations can identify and address vulnerabilities in their systems before they are exploited by malicious actors. And as a consumer, my data is all over, and I'm very much interested in having the reduced risk of data breaches by the providers that I use, at least.
Mm-hmm. And now here is again a real life example is that what we have seen is that we always protect our outer perimeter very well. So there are tools, rules in place, what can come in and so forth. But what we have seen is that when you're able to breach this outer perimeter, for example, for a social engineering attack and gain access through a user inside of the network, then what usually happens is that you're able to crawl your way into different systems. You can get enormous amount of data and then drop it out of the from the internal network to somewhere. And this is also what we are going through. So how you will get in and how you will actually then get the data and how you will import it out. So this is again a mindset that we have built in the scenarios, and we are playing out to help to reduce the data breach.
So am I hearing right? Where our customers actually practicing not what if someone gets into the system, but when they get into the system, how do you work around that? Because eventually it will happen.
Eventually, everybody will be hacked. This is at least a statement. What goes out there, but we try to at least reduce this level.
Good. This is a long list. Let's go forward. So the cost savings. Cyber ranges can be more cost effective than live testing, as they allow organizations to test their cybersecurity capabilities without risking damage to their systems or data. I think this is one way of looking at it. Other way of looking at it is how much you spend money on different cybersecurity trainings and how effective they are versus this type of training. So, or what is the cost of a data breach, or if someone's asking for bitcoins, what's the cost of that, or if they lock your system. So there are different ways of looking at cost savings. But any stories here, Aare, that you may want to
Yes,
share?
again, as you already mentioned, that there are so many different angles where you can see the cost savings. But one thing what we have also seen is that none of the companies' core business is to build up testing environments, how good the security tools are. Usually you are making an Excel table where you set up what kind of functionalities must be there. And then, vendors tick them off and say that our tools are the best. And, this is a trust. You trust them that it is like that. But what we are, doing is that we take this hassle away and we test, systems and tools by deploying them in our cyber range. I can actually test them out if the functionalities exist there. And it just gives you a huge, benefit of understanding if the tools are doing what they are said. And we take the hassle away that you don't have to do these kind of testing on your own. And we are providing you the tools and the software how to conduct this kind of testing. Just on one angle out of this many,
right,
as you mentioned.
Right. And I think that actually speaks to the last one, the scalability. So like you said, it's not anyone's or very few companies' core business is to build cyber ranges or virtual training environments of any kind. So the cyber ranges that we do provide, especially now in the SaaS world, they can easily be scaled up for large scale enterprise exercises regarding many countries, regions, or they can be sort of scaled down to do individual testing at best. So
exactly, Atro. So this is scalability is the key word nowadays in the world where we are living, and not only by scaling it up or down, but the point also here is that go as you pay. So this is the thing that when you don't use it, then you shut it down, and when you start using it, you will again push it up. And what you can also do is that as you mentioned, different regions. So for example, if you're a huge enterprise, in different worlds, the scalability also means that it has to be accessible from everywhere to everybody. So what it means is that, for example, I'm in Europe, you're in US, we need to conduct the same training. Boom, we log into the cyber range environment that is, hosted in a cloud environment. It doesn't matter where we are. I can do my test, you can do my test. If it's done, we scale it down, and again we reduce the cost, and also we reduce the hassle of maintaining these kind of environments, because it's not their core business. Their core business is to do something else, and we take out this hassle that you need to maintain your infrastructure and training environments.
Very good. So to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this slide, the benefits of a cyber range. I hope you now have a little bit of better understanding what a cyber range is, what it can be used for. We still have a couple more slides, so stay with us. Very briefly, Aare, could you, through this simple slide, introduce us to the different functionalities of a cyber range? So what is a cyber range if one doesn't, or hasn't used one or hasn't deployed one?
That's the point, that when you're looking about the cyber range, as I already mentioned, it can be a laptop that runs several virtual machines, or it can be a full-blown system. And the full-blown system, from our point of view, what the cyber range must have, or what it has to include and what kind of functionalities it provides, is that first of all, when we have users that are going through different trainings, or you do some kind of system around the testing, then it has to go to the user profile. Who went through what and when, and what was the result? How we get the results is that it has to have a scoring, visualization, and situational awareness tool. What that means is that every single activities what we are conducting on the cyber range must be somehow logged down, and they have to then put to the user profile what, when, how he or she did it. To use a cyber range, there has to be automation and dynamic scenario creation tool. What it means is that we are providing you a library, seed library of different, let's say, scenarios and virtual machines, and you can then put together different scenarios that are applicable for you. You can change them, you can modify them. So we are providing you a full, access to the cyber range environment that allows you to do everything what you want to have. And then, virtual content library comes with that, as I already mentioned. And then the last one, is the cyber range infrastructure. And again, now since everything is, you know, SaaS driven and based, then all these kind of things, having a cyber range means that you have to build up a very, you know, complex system. But if you take it as a service, then all these kind of things come to you seamlessly, and you can only, you know, enjoy the benefits what the cyber range offers, and somebody is then, you know, providing you all the functionalities that must be there. And these are the ones that should be in there to consider it as a cyber range.
Thank you, Aare.
Well,
all right, so closing up the webinar for the day. Lastly, what I wanted to highlight with you, dear listener, the CybExer approach for continuous testing and training is to provide our clients with a unique cyber range that is tailored to your needs. What that means, this is an example scenario, is that you deploy a cyber range and you start off with a team exercise. It could be a live fire, it could be a threat hunting, that type of exercise where you test the entire population of IT, cyber people, the teams, as well as then individuals within, and you get an idea, you get a report of some kind. This is an example that we have that has performance details on availability, RT attacks, incident reports, cooperation, etc. And based on that report, we will then help you plan your training needs for the upcoming year or 6 months or a quarter, however you want to plan it, that is consisting of individual learning paths as well as then smaller team learning events. And then typically in a 6 months, 12 months, our clients try to do another exercise or like to do another exercise where they sort of retest the team and see if their incident response time went from, what was it, 10 hours to 1 hour or something, see the sort of results and see if this is working, what we're doing. So this is sort of the CybExer approach that we are promoting in this world of closing the cyber skills gap.
And maybe,
anything to add here?
Maybe to add here, the thing is that how we make this kind of report is that we are benchmarking the different clients who are coming to us with the same sector clients that we have had. So that brings us not a subjective understanding about what, you know, you should do or what, who should do what, but the main point here is that since we have the scoring and situational awareness tool in place, we are able to detect anomalies in the same sector from different, let's say, participants. And we are always giving them, you know, this kind of information back, saying that, you know, this agency did the same thing, you know, using these kind of tools and these kind of approaches. And we also, you know, give feedback always to our, you know, customers and clients what they should improve, not by our own knowledge, but rather looking at from the industry point of view and how the others are doing it.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is you know your team is running a marathon in 10 hours, whatever. It sounds good, they improve, now it's 8 hours, but what is that compared to the world record, the state record, or, you know, the country record? So getting a benchmark on top of that greatly helps in understanding where you stand against the greater population.
True.
Good. All right, so closing up for today, thank you so much for participating in CybExer Technologies webinar on the benefits of cyber range. Thank you, Aare, so much for joining us today. I thank you for your time and thank for all our listeners to being with us here all the way to the end. Yeah.
Thank you, Atro. Thank you, listeners, and everybody stay safe. And if you have anything, then reach out to us and we try to make the world a better place.
That is right.